Just watch your step.
This is my first time doing this, so do I just start or I wait till you tell me? Okay.
Right. Okay,
Hello, Paul.
you can start.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Debi Daviau. I'm president of the Professional Institute of the Public Service of Canada, PIPSC. We are the largest federal public sector union representing professionals in the public service. Thank you so much for coming today. We represent close to 50,000 members in the federal public service who range from scientists to computer specialists to nurses and tax auditors. Our members work across government and in different regions of the country. They are hardworking and dedicated to their jobs, but they are also growing increasingly impatient with the Phénix pay system. I'm here today because I am frustrated and have completely run out of patience. We are now coming close to an inauspicious anniversary. In February, we will be 1 year of the introduction of the Phénix pay system for our members. We have not reached the government's so-called steady state by then. No, we already know that that won't happen, and we're not even getting a target date anymore. Our members have waited far too long, and we've heard far too many horror stories. Nos membres ont attendu beaucoup trop longtemps. J'ai entendu beaucoup trop d'histoires à faire frémir. As you can imagine, missing pay adds up. We all know our household expenses closely mirror our paychecks, even when we have a sustainable personal budget. Comme vous pouvez l'imaginer, les erreurs dans le salaire, voire les absences de paie, exercent une pression accrue sur les finances personnelles. Nous tous savons que nos dépenses domestiques sont étroitement liées à notre salaire, et ce même avec un budget familial équilibré. I'm here today to say to the government, employees who are struggling with substantially reduced pay or no pay at all should be paid through a separate but parallel system until the problems with Phénix can be fixed and they can be reintegrated into that system. If you've not been receiving any pay, your department is able to issue an emergency salary advance. While the system is not perfect, it's still a valuable resource if managed properly. What the government or departments do not have the ability to do is to issue salary advances for people who have seen their salaries significantly reduced due to system errors with the pay system. We need to see a system set up, albeit temporary, where salary advances can go to those experiencing situations of sometimes very extreme hardship. For those awaiting disability insurance, the situation is also very dire. Phénix has caused lengthy delays on advancing the proper paperwork to the insurance companies. Employees wait far too long in limbo with no pay. They have no ability to access emergency pay. This also needs to be fixed immediately, and they should have access to salary advances. These are the government's most vulnerable employees. We were promised that the shortcomings with emergency pay would be addressed, and that someone who has not been adequately paid could have access to these salary advances. Right now, they have nothing. It's been almost a year since the Phénix fiasco was foisted on our members, and we need to see better systems in place to help struggling civil servants. This was not their fault, and they should not be paying the price for this ill-conceived project. And they should definitely not be asked to shoulder the burden of chasing down their pay. We were told in December that the Treasury Board and Public Services and Procurement Canada were going to look into how the system of salary advances could be expanded given the circumstances. It would mean some policy changes, but they seem to understand the need to take immediate action. Face à cette situation, le Conseil du Trésor et Services publics Canada nous ont informé en décembre dernier qu'il regarderait comment le système d'avance salariale pourrait être élargi. Ceci impliquerait des changements en termes de politique, mais il semblait comprendre les enjeux. I was frankly shocked to learn yesterday during Deputy Minister Lemay's briefing that no mention of this much-needed temporary parallel pay system was forthcoming. Eh bien, franchement, hier, dans la séance d'information technique tenue par le sous-ministre Lemay, j'ai été choquée de constater l'absence de mention de la venue de ce système de paie parallèle temporaire plus que nécessaire. We've been working with the government to activate solutions. But in the meantime, we've had to adopt our own programs to help our members and public servants. Our union took the step to issue loans to members impacted by Phénix, offering to those who were experiencing hardship due to reduced pay or missing pay. Our criteria for a loan is hardship, that they're just not able to meet their basic living expenses, not simply no pay. To date, we have had to issue a number of loans and will continue to offer the loans program until we see Phénix system functioning well and steadily. We will not be asking our members to repay these loans until their situations are steady and they are receiving all of their pay. Enough is enough. I'm telling the government to figure out how to pay your employees while you also figure out how to fix the mess that is Phénix, regardless of the administrative burden that causes this government. The government has spent close to a year trying to make the new system work. Civil servants have gone without proper pay for way too long. If you can't fix the system, fix the immediate problem. Let checks be cut for people who need them, and do it now. Thank you so much to all of you for coming. I'm now available to take your questions. I also have with me Vice President Stéphane Aubry, who is available to field questions as well on this subject matter now or afterwards. Thank you.
Ms. Daviau, I'm just wondering, I'm trying to
Imagine my audience wrapping their heads around the notion of Phénix isn't working, and yet you want to adopt a separate temporary system. How long do you think that would take to adopt such a system or create such a system? And wouldn't it just complicate matters more?
For sure, for the employer, it's going to complicate matters more. Anytime you have to run parallel systems, it can be complicated. However, given that they seem to not have the capacity simply to flip the switch and go back to the old system, which was functioning perfectly well, what we've proposed is expanding their current capacity to issue emergency payments, to allow departments to authorize and issue payments to people who are in situations other than simply no pay. So that is people who are having troubles accessing disability as a result of Phénix, people who are not receiving their full pay or who are having an enormous amount of pay clawed back off their paychecks, any of those people. And so really the system that would manage that is currently available. We're only asking that it be expanded, that they include people who have already been trained in departments who have delegated financial authority to ensure that anybody who is in a situation of financial hardship, that is, they can't meet their monthly obligations, their childcare, their mortgage, those people need to receive pay immediately, and they currently have the capacity to pay people. It's simply policies and government positions that is now seemingly creating the barrier to doing that.
Just as a follow-up, you're lending members money who've fallen short and the government doesn't seem to be paying them. You know how many members, how much you've lent out, is the union charging interest on the money?
I don't have the current figure of loans, number of loans, although it's somewhere in the around 15 loans, because by identifying to us these people in extreme hardship, we were able to advocate in a more detailed way on behalf of them having their problems resolved with the government. So that is, by issuing these loans programs to our members, it has enabled us actually to be able to advocate for them to receive pay from departments in a more correct way. And no, we are not charging interest, and we are not asking for repayment until people are in receipt of their full pay.
The government says that they don't have very many people in the system where it's a straight up pay problem not being paid. I'm just wondering how many people you think this alternate pay system could be handling?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we have a different definition of hardship than the government. So far, they've only issued emergency pay to people who are in situations of no pay, and then it, of course, doesn't cover off these transitional people, the people who are going off on parental leave or the people who are going off on disability or coming back from disability. And so that's been really, really challenging. And so what we're asking is you now broaden, expand to all of those priority 1 and 2 and 3 cases that they had identified early on. People who, for example, rely on their overtime to meet their monthly obligations and can't get their overtime. That was once a priority 3. Departments have the capacity to do this. I've met with several departmental heads. They are more than ready, willing, and able to effect these payments. However, they haven't been given the authority and the permission to do so. So, I believe what I'm doing today is actually going to enable departments to help their employees better, and it's going to clearly, enable a system where they can be paid. As far as creating some other burden that will need to be handled, absolutely, it's going to create a burden. In my view, no amount of administrative burden is too much for the government to shoulder, given its obligation to pay its employees.
Vous dites qu'en décembre, on vous avait laissé entendre qu'on pourrait peut-être aller de l'avant avec un système parallèle. Hier, Mme Lemay n'en a pas parlé du tout. Il y a un comité consultatif. Est-ce que c'est là que vous allez demander ça ou
C'est exactement ça. On a un comité au niveau exécutif avec le gouvernement. C'est à cet endroit que j'ai proposé un système parallèle. Leur réponse était, il y a inquiété de l'administration d'un deuxième système, mais selon moi, nous avons les ressources en place dans tous les ministères pour effectuer ce changement et c'est seulement un choix du gouvernement de changer leur politique.
Donc, c'est une volonté politique qui manque, vous pensez?
Excuse-moi, je n'ai pas compris la question.
Vous parlez d'un choix politique, donc c'est la volonté politique. Par exemple, la ministre pourrait dire
exactement.
On va de l'avant avec ce
et aujourd'hui, on a juste parlé de service public. Mais la responsabilité, c'est de le gouvernement du Canada. Puis, selon moi, c'est le ministre du Conseil de Trésor, ministre Bryson, qui faut être impliqué de résoudre cette situation, et aussi le Premier ministre, parce que c'est notre patron. C'est pas juste le ministre ou le sous-ministre de Travaux publics, Services publics aujourd'hui, qui est le responsable. Notre employeur, c'est le Conseil du Trésor. Puis le Conseil du Trésor, faut payer leurs employés.
Government said yesterday that they have 8,000 cases that are very complex in the original backlog. Some of them are taking up to a day per case to solve. And then an undefined number of new cases that have come in place since last summer. Wondering how long you think this temporary program might have to be in place given the scale of the backlog?
Given I don't have a crystal ball, and clearly the department doesn't seem to know at this point when they're going to achieve a steady state. That date has been pushed, and now they're not bothering to just come up with an arbitrary date. That's probably a good thing at this point. We believe that for about a year, there's going to be a requirement to have a secondary system that would require some additional level of engagement of people with delegated financial authority in each of these departments, and that in some way, shape, or form, all of that is going to result in some effort at the end of that to reintegrate all this information back into the main pay system. But I estimate about a year with the limited knowledge that I have about departmental workings.
Est-ce que vous donnez un échéancier au gouvernement pour mettre de l'avant ce système parallèle-là? Parce que là, vous dites ça presse. Là, on est on est milieu de janvier. Est-ce que vous attendez à ce que le gouvernement prenne action d'ici la fin du mois, d'ici, je sais pas?
Je l'ai demandé au mois de décembre. Puis, selon moi, ça va juste prendre une journée de mettre en place parce que c'est pas très, très compliqué. Juste élargir un système qui est en place aujourd'hui. Mais j'ai expecté hier d'entendre quelque chose de les autres actions qu'il va prendre pour s'assurer que les membres sont bien payés, mais c'est parce que je n'ai pas écouté aucune chose sur ce sujet hier que j'étais comme vraiment choquée. Il faut absolument continuer de mettre la pression avec la presse. Puis je vous remercie pour votre attention à cet enjeu encore.
I know several labor groups, several unions were pursuing legal action back in November, December. I don't know if you guys were part of that action, but that this settlement with the new committee and the government's commitment to work with you stop that legal action from going forward. If they aren't prepared to set up this parallel pay system, are you guys prepared to, I guess, restart that legal action?
We were not part of the original legal action because at that point we were simply wanting to effect a solution. So, given that we also represent government IT workers, we were very engaged in reaching out to the government and trying to be part of the solution. We didn't feel that legal action was helpful to Canadians or helpful to our members in terms of actually getting money into their pockets. However, we definitely supported the principle of the need to take that action. As time goes by, as less and less, we're being less and less hopeful about seeing progress. In fact, we're still seeing new problems every single pay cycle. Now our members are being told by their managers that it's their responsibility to manage their own pay. And alas, I am now starting to turn my attentions to what kinds of legal actions, other than individual actions we're taking on behalf of our members, that can force the government to take, concrete actions that will get pay into my members' pockets.
Can you identify some more recent examples or a recent example of where people are missing pay and it's become a dire situation for them?
We're hearing a lot from people who are either on long-term disability or trying to gradually return to work from long-term disability. The inabilities to process paperwork. We have situations of people who sometimes get a little bit of pay, sometimes get no pay, sometimes get overpaid even. It's absolutely impossible for them to manage their budgets, and these are sick people, people who are already struggling with their health, and it makes it just absolutely impossible. We've heard from the government about these very complex cases. A lot of our members are falling into that complex category. They are, nurses working in remote regions, or they are scientists working out on ships, or they're people out in the field doing chemical management or whatever the case may be. Our members typically do not have as good access to their online system. They don't have as good an ability to be able to connect with their pay centers and through their online applications. And so that's where we're seeing a lot of our real extreme cases now are with people who simply don't work your 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 in the office, in a government office. We have a lot of professionals working in the field, and those people seem to be more and more deeply impacted by what's going on with Phénix.
Is your proposal, so would your members, would they have the choice, maybe they're not getting all of their pay because they're doing an acting assignment or something smaller like that, would they be able to make the decision, I want to go into the secondary pay system until you figure Phénix out?
They would obviously have to demonstrate some sort of hardship, right? Like if anybody who's in a hardship situation, and we've found through our loans program that it's not that difficult to assess a criteria on what is hardship for somebody. The inability to make their monthly payments, their mortgage, their child support payments, they're we're not just affecting an individual here, we're affecting a family and sometimes more than one family. And it's not just a situation of overtime counts and something else doesn't, or retroactive pay doesn't count, but this counts. It's really about an individual circumstance of people, employees of the public service who are, contractually should be paid a certain amount of money, have monthly obligations, and can't meet those monthly obligations as a result of not receiving the correct pay. And there's obviously a plethora of circumstances, but an example would be in the north. Northern nurses, it's very difficult, it's costly to live in the north, it's a very challenging environment, lack of resources for them. So in order to recruit and retain their resources in the north, they allow nurses to work on part-time schedules so that they can keep other employment in the region in order to augment their capacity. And those nurses then supplement their income through extra additional hours, overtime, whatever the case may be. In fact, the government relies on them to put in this overtime because they don't have enough resources, and then they don't get paid for it, and so they're not actually even able to meet their bills, and it's really just because they're not receiving their overtime. And so I think each situation would need to be assessed. This is why I identify there are people throughout departments who have a delegated financial authority. There are people in the position to be able to do this assessment. They've been certified by government through the Canada School of the Public Service, and for me it's a no-brainer that you make use of those people who you invested in to make them able to deal with stuff like this.
Vous avez parlé tantôt de recours juridique. Vous n'étiez pas avec les autres syndicats, mais là, vous regardez ce que vous pourriez faire. Est-ce qu'il y a déjà des griefs ou est-ce qu'on s'apprête bientôt à déposer des griefs individuels?
Oui, on a quelques centaines des griefs individus qui sont déjà déposés et ça prend quelques mois d'aller à la processus, mais à ce moment, on n'a pas de décision au niveau final sur les griefs individus, mais on va penser des autres types de griefs, des autres types de plaintes, des actions légaux parce que à ce moment, je ne peux pas demander à mes membres d'accepter une situation qui est inacceptable.
Et avec les autres syndicats, est-ce que, vous êtes dans le comité consultatif, mais les autres syndicats, est-ce que vous allez tenter de les convaincre ou aussi de dire, écoutez, ça suffit, là?
Oui, on parle souvent entre tous les syndicats à cet enjeu sur Phénix spécifiquement. On a planifié toutes nos actions ensemble. C'est juste qu'on prend des actions complémentaires, pas nécessairement les actions la même chose chaque fois. On travaille ensemble, on a une stratégie qu'on discutait ensemble et c'est juste nos espoirs qu'on peut affecter une solution parce que c'est incroyable qu'aujourd'hui, presque un an, on n'a pas cette amélioration.
All right, we're good? Happy? Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Merci tout le monde. Thank you.
We're good.
Just have to watch the microphone.